feels kind of spongy and like, whoa, that's that sweet spot right there. And if you overdo it, you're overdoing it, and you can, I mean, just overdo it on purpose. You'll see the leaks like they were talking about, just closing over and then opening up. So you can just find that spot where you can trim it just where it feels like it's heavy, and then.
So yeah, I think that's a really good point too. Feeling the tension on the main sheet is something I think I do. So kind of what I'm thinking about it. Do you ever say a 1-to-1 in the really light stuff?
I've never. Has anybody done that?
I've done
all I can say is do not be 3-to-1 if it's in the light stuff.
That's a good point.
3-to-1.
That's a really good point.
Man, I had to work on Bronson for Bronson's a big, strong guy. Like, Bronson, what are you doing out here with 3-to-1?
Yep.
You don't need 3-to-1, really. Some people, like, if it's windy, they're like 3-to-1.
Yeah, the 1-to-1 would give you so much.
So much.
I think it would be too herky-jerky.
Yeah.
And too much
I've never
detachment
actually
and
tried
flow and all that. Yeah,
I've never tried it
I
either.
thought about trying it, but the problem is if the wind comes up to 7 or 8, you're going to have a real problem. It's too hard to pull it in.
Well, Sean over here was mentioning that he'll go off the boom a little bit just to kind of feel that weight, just feel where it feels right, and that's not a bad idea. I mean, like you were saying, if we could hold that boom up, we would to let some twist happen. Yeah, I would, especially at the center. We have a lot of ropey, thick sheets and old school hardware. So, yeah, that sounds like
Actually,
a winner.
that's a good point on the lines. I do think lines matter a lot more in the light stuff because they do go through the blocks a lot easier. Spin sheets, and we actually use 1-to-1. You got 1-to-1s here. We use 1-to-1s.
One of the things we did the other day that was really instructional about weight distribution and sail trim. As we both went out, we pulled the rudder up, just sailed around with no rudder.
That's
just
a great
sail
thing to do.
trim and weight.
Using the weight and the sails.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And you can do it, and that's really what you kind of want to be doing in light stuff. That's what if you get the boat balance right, you're not using that rudder. That's faster. You're just going through the water faster because you're talking about foils. The rudder on unfortunately Scott is not a foil. It's a flat board. On some boats, it's like a thistle. It's a foil that actually you get lifted up. You want to use that rudder as little as possible that we have in the Scott class. Did you guys talk about spinnaker stuff?
A little bit. We talked about, for me, and this is where they were laughing when you said weight forward, weight back to the leeward side of the boat, paying a lot of attention to your pull height, and just in keeping your boat going as fast as you can. There were a lot of questions about how do you know when to go deep, when you need to go high, and all those things. We talked through that a little bit, but give us your thoughts about that as well. About when do you go deep? When do you know you can drive deep? You got a bunch of boats driving over the top of you. You know, when do you stay with them high?
Right.
And when do you separate and try to go deep to get some separation
And
from them?
before you answer, would you say that you've noticed Ryan can go pretty darn deep? I've seen you go real deep and just disappear.
I've been sailing a lot deeper with the tri-radial, actually. It sails a lot deeper. And actually, this will be a good experience because someone bought my tri-radial, so I have my old crosscut.
You got the lightning bolt?
Yeah, the old crosscut, and some little nervous one. But if you've got people above you, like you're talking about, then I would be worried about them going over me in the lighter stuff and maybe protect. If they're really screwing with each other, then I'll be like, okay, they're going to go high anyway. And whenever I can, I like to stay away from boats. So I do like to sail deep as possible. And what we do is try and get that pole back and try to sail. But I also listen to Stacy because she can feel, she flies the spinnaker, and she can really tell me more than I can tell. She can feel the pressure when it starts to pull and she has pressure. She'll say, "You got pressure," and instead of what I'll do is I'll start bearing off. We'll start going down in the pressure, and if it gets light, she needs some more. Here she comes, right, Stace? When you tell me when you've got the pressure on the when it's getting light, she'll say, "I don't have anything," and then we'll heat up. We call it. We'll start sailing on fire. But that's really, I mean, like what John said earlier, I think it's true downwind too, and people forget this. Going upwind, you really shouldn't have your main sheet cleated. Hardly ever, unless it's really windy and you need a little break now and then. You got to open your beer. Okay.
I mean, if you have to drink your beer, that's.
Likewise, downwind, you should be always making adjustments too. Like we're just always busy trying to get the boat to go faster at all times. There's no magic position. So if it's going lighter, we're going to probably heat up a little bit. If it's getting a little bit more pressure, we'll try and sail down in those moments. Because sailing deep is the equivalent of pointing upwind. People are always asking me, about pointing higher, but hardly anybody asks about how can I sail deeper downwind, which is essentially the same concept. You're going more towards the mark.
You ever
So you
sail
just
by?
can't get
Head
too
up
greedy.
and build a parent and soak that low and just be
Yeah, kind of.
Ideally.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do kind of do that. You know, what I'll do is I'll start feeling slower, and like John said, it comes with practice. You start to feel the boat sort of decelerating, and you just know something's wrong, and you can heat up a little bit. And the only way to heat up downwind is to head up a little bit. And likewise, going upwind, the only way to go faster is to bear off. So we open the sails up a little bit, and try not to use your rudder when you're doing the light stuff.
So if you wanted to heat up to build some speed because you feel very nervous and slow, you would probably put your weight to leeward and maybe try to use your weight to head up a little bit, maybe main sheet or something.
Yeah, but try not to be nervous, especially in the light stuff. Like, try to relax. That's the other thing, and not move around too much. Like, right? She's always trying to calm me down because I do get tense. I think the tensest sailing, personally, for me, is light stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a little bit like being in Vegas. You know, the wind's going to come up over here, or it's going to come up over there, and you can't control it. So it's a little nerve-wracking, and you got to really work on trying to be calm and stick to a game plan. Like, even if your game plan doesn't work, at least you had one and you learned from the mistakes for that game plan. Like, I really have been here before me. I got to try the left side too. And I usually don't like to do sides of courses too, by the way, medium and up. But if it's light, I'm more likely to try and go to a side of the course because a lot of times on the edges in the lighter stuff, there's more pressure. So it's better to go fast, sail deep, and go to where you think there's more wind will be, and not worry as much about where the mark is on the lighter stuff, right? And just keep the boat. Don't go off to a corner, but
Unless.
But if do you guys? I mean, Sean, you're going to tell me your game plan tomorrow, right?
Absolutely not. You know, it's always a crapshoot, isn't it? I mean, every time I think there's some home court advantage, I always get, scolded hard.
But you know that in light breeze and all that stuff, you talked about gambling, all that stuff. You guys are always towards the front, though. So it's not like it is. But I think the key thing is you guys are always really keeping an eye on conditions. And if your strategy is wrong, give up on it and maybe go to the other side or go hunt that other breeze, right?
Well, that's true. Like, I think that's what it comes to experience too. Like, I've been deep in light stuff, but the thing is to always try and be positive, and there's going to be opportunities. So you do need to keep your eyes open. Like I was in Saratoga last summer, and we had a big lead, and then we hit a huge hole, and the whole fleet went by. And then we go around the weather mark, and everybody started heading to the leeward mark. And I looked over my shoulder, and there was pressure on the left, and we actually beam reached. So the mark was that way, and we sailed a beam reach over to where this pressure was. Then we came down on it and picked up the whole fleet again in one leg. So it's like, it's keeping your eyes open, because in the light stuff, there will really, if you can get your eyes out of the boat, in light stuff, it's key. And not worry so much about the guy who's 2 boat lengths over there and what he's doing. That's, try to think of the whole playing field. Not so much. I try not to screw up around with other boats as much as possible. So sort of respect each other's space. That's how I like to say it. So, what else? Did you talk about raising and lowering the chute? In the pole, setting the pole?
No, we didn't do that. No, you can talk through that.
Let's make that a new segment.
Yeah. So,